Jay here for Stretford, Paddock. This is a live review. Manchester United 2, Liverpool 4. Joining me as always is my good friend Joe Smith. Joe, this season is descending into farce. I know we've still got the Europa League final, but, you know, loss against Leicester, okay, understandable. It was the Rezzies. But that, for about 40 minutes of that game was as bad as I've seen Manchester United play under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. I'm not exaggerating. I know we lost 6-1 to Spurs and we've had other bad results against Newcastle, West Ham, Palace, a lot of it. But in that spell, we were dreadful for a good chunk of that game.
Yeah, from about sort of 30 minutes to 70 minutes or so.
That 40-minute spell there, it was dire.
They just shit themselves, didn't they? Like, we got the goal up, we started well. Lovely goal. I know there was a bit of luck with the finish, but, you know, made some space in the box. Bruno with the shot, deflected in. Maybe would have hit the inside of the post with the curve of the ball and gone in anyway. And then we just sat back and we thought, we're going to win here. Great. Well, we're not, because we're not that good at defending sitting back. We're without, you know, our best centre-back in Harry Maguire. Our defensive midfielders aren't up to holding off difficult and intricate passing that Liverpool can put together, especially with Thiago in there. Wijnaldum as well was excellent. They don't break up the lines. They don't stop players passing through them. They get drawn to the ball. They're not particularly good at tackling. They're terrible at passing. They can't retain possession. They're not very good under pressure, especially Fred. I mean, I know we're going to be talking about Fred. I'm sure he would have asked me about him anyway. But, like, there are times this season, and today's one of them, and it's hard. I don't want to just... I really don't like completely, you know, disregarding a football at Manchester United or saying that this person isn't good enough or that he's cost us this, or because they're all players trying as hard as they can. They're very good players, all of that stuff. But Fred, on a handful of times this season, has just ceased being a footballer. It's not just like, he's misplayed a pass. Oh, that's a bit of a late tackle. It's pass after pass after pass, positioning, getting dragged out of position, can't stay with his man, can't pass the ball, can't turn on the ball. When he does pass it, it's at knee height. Like, the amount of times that happened in that 40-minute spell, like I said, until he got taken off, it's like, if you hadn't seen him do it before, you would think it was impossible for a professional footballer to misplace so many passes in a row. And he was the worst of the bunch. But Pogba wanted too long on the ball. And you made a great point in the watch-along. It was as though every single player was playing up to their worst traits at the same time. So, you know, Henderson not looking particularly great at shot stopping. Bruno, all he's doing is diving and rolling about. Pogba wants too long on the ball. Rashford, he just gets the ball, sprints, and knocks the ball straight into their defenders. Cavani, anonymous. Like... Luke Shaw holding on to the ball for too long. Lindelof, like Trev said on the watch along, was basically the only one that you didn't think, you are playing shit. Even Eric Bailly with, I mean, I don't think it was a penalty, but a little bit rash in his tackles, a little bit sort of being, dragged around a little bit. It just diabolical for so long. And we're lucky that it stayed at 3 for as long as it did. And the fourth goal came late on, because they could have had 4 or 5 in about 20 minutes. Once we'd lost the plot, everything just collapsed. I mean, terrible, wasn't it, for so much of that game?
It was, Matt, and I agree with everything you've just said. We'll go through a little bit. Let's just do this there. Yeah. Let's just go through a few of the performances there, because as you said, you can almost pick 9 players to sort of criticise. But the one that everyone seems to be talking about, I've already seen a couple of chats about it, and we'll get to them later, and on socials, is Fred. Now, my issue with Fred is, for starters, I think his ceiling is about a 7 out of 10. And I think he's at it. I don't think Fred's going to get better next season.
No.
He's 27, 28, I think he is.
Yeah.
He's not a kid. And I don't think his ceiling's that high. And his bottom level is literally like 2 or 3 out of 10. It's fucking terrible. Now, I've warmed to Fred at times. I've defended Fred. I've sort of stuck up for him. I've complimented him when he's had good games. But what you've basically got for me in Fred and McTominay, you've got 2 squad players starting every game.
Yeah.
You've got, we all love Scott McTominay, but again, he's not as bad as Fred. I personally don't think he's. And I think that McTominay may have another level to go, because he's only 24, I think. Yeah. He may have another level to reach. But you've got 2 players who, by right, should be playing about 15, 20 games a season, playing every game, because we haven't got a 6. So you've got, and Ollie doesn't trust either of them to do it on their own. So you're playing 2 sort of 6 out of 10 players in that role together, because you can't rely on one of them on their own. And that's just not going to work. That's not going to win you titles. And if we are going to kick on from this season and challenge City, we need to have players in our team that are as good as or not better than what City have got on their bench. And I don't even think Fred and McTominay, it's maybe McTominay, certainly not Fred, makes City's bench. I just don't. I just don't think Pepper. I know they were interested in him, but I think they probably look at it thinking we've dodged a bit of a bullet. And I don't want to be too harsh on him off one performance, but as you said, we've had this conversation so many times sat here, and it's like, I'm sick of having it. You know, you talk about Rashford running down. I mean, I don't know why he started on the right. At least he got his goal, so there's at least the positive from there. Eric Bailly, you know, it's like that whole thing of absence makes the heart grow fonder. Everyone's so fond of Eric Bailly when he's not playing. It's like, he's our best player, he's our best defender, sorry. Get him in, did it. And yet, you see what happens when it comes in from Maguire. It's just not the same. And the trouble you've got with Bailly is he probably needs a few games because we know what he's capable of, but he's never getting a few games on the spin. He's going to get 1 or 2. He had 5 in, was it October or whenever it was, probably a bit later, sorry, about January. And it was like, he did well in those 5 games, but then he's out again. And we don't see him again for 2 months. And I think Ollie's got to take some responsibility. He did. I thought he did the right change with Greenwood on for Fred. Matic comes on, and somebody goes in defence when Tuanzebe sat there. I thought that was a little bit harsh on Tuanzebe. And then Matic gives it away, and Muttleba ends the game as a competition. But you're right. It was every player playing to their sort of low, like their worst traits, basically. So, like you just said, I don't need to repeat what you said. And I'm just hoping it was a bad day at the office because Cavani's never that anonymous. And to be fair, he didn't get any service, so I'm not blaming him. And at least he trapped back and put a foot in. You know, Pogba is never usually that bad in possession. He's not. And he's actually been in good form recently, Paul Pogba. Bruno is usually more effective. I know he got a goal, but over the course of a 90 minutes, you usually see a bit more from him. And Luke Shaw is usually a little bit better as well. So it's not like these are all players that have, you know, you see this from very often. And I think that it might just be one of those days, the fact that, you know, the almost, I know it sounds daft when you're playing the Scousers. No one wants to beat the Scousers more than I do. But almost that air of, it doesn't matter as much. And I don't know if that's in a psychological thing where the Scousers know they've got to win. Get at him. We've got to get a win today. You know what I mean? Like, even a draw doesn't really help us. And where United, it's like when you're up against that tempo, and you know it can sort of leave you a little bit shell-shocked, make you a little bit panicky, and that's certainly what seemed to happen. And it was just awful to watch. Sitting here, and I hate sitting here criticising these players because I love these players, I do. And I don't want to be that guy. And we're not those people that start screaming and throwing things about at our own players because that's not what we're about. But I'm not going to sit here and say that was good enough. No. Because it wasn't. From 1 to 11, I'll maybe give you Wan-Bissaka.
Yeah, didn't do too much wrong.
Yeah, and you can argue that at least Fernandes and Rashford got goals. But by and large, that was a pretty abject performance. I'm not blaming Greenwood who came on, by the way. He didn't do anything wrong. But it was a pretty abject performance throughout the team. And if we go into the Europa League final playing like that, I don't give a fuck where Villarreal are in the league and how shit they are. They'll beat us.
Yeah, definitely.
It's that fucking simple. Go on, mate. I'll let you do some chats.
Yeah, we got a super chat from Sohail. He said, "I don't think United can dominate with Fred in the starting lineup. Hurts my heart watching him play. Sometimes he essentially plays for the opponents. I think that's a little bit. You know, obviously he had a bad game today." And he does have bad games, and I do agree we're not going to dominate with him in the starting lineup. Jash says, underpins the need for a proper CDM and top centre-back. Maulik says, love the show, but I have to say it was like AFTV, blaming Ole for not being on the touchline. Come on, he can't defend the performance. Didn't want it as much as Liverpool, who played for their whole next season. They did have a lot more to play for.
And just on that point, it's not like Arsenal fan TV at all. It's not like Trevor was on there. He's making a point of he wanted to see Ollie being a bit more animated on the touchline. I don't know if that has an effect on players. Trevor was a coach at United for 20 years. For him, a coach should be doing that sort of thing.
Yeah, that's what he
So
wants to say.
I understand where he's coming from. I don't particularly agree with it. I think sometimes I just don't know if players do listen to that. It does affect them. You know, and you look at some of the people that are the most animated and not, you know, they're not always the most successful. But that's his opinion. But you know, I'm not having the one where it's like we're not asked fancy. Otherwise, I'd be asking permission to break something. Go on.
And also, that's coming from a position of experience for working for Manchester United for 20 years. It's not just someone screaming at the telly because he fancies
No,
it.
and he that's from him. That's what he wants to see from his managers, from his coaches.
Yeah.
And we've seen that from Ole. We were all talking about the things to just say, one more of that and you're fucking off.
Yeah.
That sort of thing. And sometimes people do want to see that. Me personally, I don't know if it makes any difference whatsoever.
Yeah. AK says CDM and centre-back before centre-forward and right winger. I mean, I think there's been plenty of people, not just on here, on social media, speaking in the pub, speaking to your mates. I think a lot of people see the need for a defensive midfielder. And like you were saying before, Jay, I don't think, or like you asked, should I say, I don't think Ole watches this team and thinks, fucking hell, that's weird, because Fred's 9 out of 10 most weeks. I don't think he thinks that. I think he knows, like all of us watching at home, that Manchester United's defensive midfield area isn't top class, especially when you go through the team and you look at United's players. In terms of goalkeepers, we've got a question to answer there, but we've got good players there to pick from. Wan-Bissaka's defensively sensational. Luke Shaw's becoming a real top player. In centre back, maybe I think Maguire's a very good player. Lindelof, you can ask some questions about. The attacking positions, we've got a lot of really good, talented players. Defensive midfield, it just isn't there. And McTominay wasn't good today. They gave the ball away a lot. But I think the difference between McTominay and Fred, and one of the points you said about the ceiling, I think McTominay's got another step to go. But also, we didn't spend 50 million quid on McTominay. And I know that we shouldn't just be worrying about the money because whoever's better. But McTominay's came through the youth team. He gets games when he needs to. He doesn't play as often as Fred. And also, Fred, the expectation is that you should be hopeful to have one of the best midfielders in the world for that money. Because there's not that many midfielders that 50 million quid has been paid for. Or 50 million quid has paid for. Because that's just, in the history of football, there's about 10 players that have been spent that much on him for midfield. He should be one of the best 10 midfielders that have ever been transferred for that kind of money. And I know prices are different these days, and you see fullbacks like Mendy at City who can't get a game, and he was 50 million quid. But it's not as though we spent 25 million on him. He was a hell of a lot of money, and the expectations have to be different, and he's just not good enough.
I think it was it Carl Anker that was saying that on the tweet, was it, about Fred? Like, we should have been worried when Fred was able to have his medical at United early because he wasn't going to the World Cup with Brazil. That should have been a bit of a red flag. Hit the like button as well. Do give us a like. You might not have liked that performance. Do give us a like. We get was there more super chats, or did you read them out? There was one more super chat. There was one more that I wanted to read as well. Was it Brem Flynn?
Well, there's a couple, yeah. Brem Flynn says, worst midfield partnership since McGarvey and Grimes against Coventry away in 81. You remember that one, don't you, Jay?
I was 1 year old when that, but I do know those players that he's talking about, and they're not exactly
I never thought that'd be
always highly regarded.
Yeah, Abhinav as well. Pogba was exceptionally poor today. Yeah, we mentioned Pogba before. He just wanted too long on the ball, didn't he? And the couple of times when he dropped back a little bit deeper to allow Mason to come on, he just he did the thing that Fred does, which is, to me, the instant indicator that this person isn't a defensive midfielder. Someone's got the ball 20 yards away, and instead of, right, where's their pass going to be? Like, Michael Carrick is the best I've ever seen at this. So you've got the ball 20 yards away, and my brain is, the pass that you want to play is here, and I'm going to go in between the two men so you can't make that pass anymore. Yeah. It's not a tackle. It's not he's not flying through anyone. He's not grabbing his man. He just, either you have to make a different pass that's not as successful, not as dangerous, or I'll intercept it. But Pogba, you see the ball 20 metres away, he just sprints at him. Like he's not got 4 or 5 seconds to just pass it round you or dribble round you. Fred does the same thing. Oh, he's got the ball. Let me fucking sprint at him. Yeah. Oh, he's dribbled past me because I was running full speed against a very good midfielder. It's like, how do you not think that's what's going to happen? And that's the thing. You just think they play like they're not used to playing in that position. And I know Pogba doesn't play that deep usually. And to me, something looks a bit off about Paul Pogba all day, like not tracking Firmino for their first goal.
That's like, there's no excuses there. And I like Paul Pogba. I think we need to pull out all the stops to keep him. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're Paul Pogba or if you're, I don't know, Axel Tuanzebe or you're Amad Diallo. You track your man. Do you know what I mean? Like there's no excuses there. You can't say, oh well, whatever. No.
Well, it's only Firmino. He's shit.
Yeah, It's basic. It's so basic. You try, and he doesn't. And then he's too slow. He's too late. And he falls over. And it was really. I think we've got a super chat about it, have we? No, we haven't. It's just someone's. Did you read that one about? Do you think playing 4 games in?
No. Abhinav Verna with another super chat said, "Do you think playing 4 games in 7 days caused fatigue? These guys looked off. Fernandes seemed a little off and was more worried about his ankle. I mean, Fernandes take away the 4 games in 7 days because I know he didn't play the other day, but he's played a hell of a lot of minutes this season. But to me, that's not an excuse because." Well, Liverpool have played loads of minutes. They've played loads of games, and they've had more injuries than us this season.
I wasn't as annoyed with Fernandes today.
No, me neither.
Because I just don't know. He at least seems. I know this is such a basic argument. I hate the fact that I'm making it because it's like
Go on.
passion. Show a bit of that. But he at least is trying and kicking off and arguing and snarling and putting himself into challenges. And do you know what I mean? And he's trying to make something happen and. It looks like he's up for it. Do you know what I mean? At least got that impression from him. Where 1 or 2 players today, I just didn't feel like they were. I just felt like they weren't. And I think Ollie's got to take responsibility. You know, I'm as if you want to call it that, as Ollie in as you can get. But you could see it wasn't working. Yes, he made the right sub with the Fred thing, but it was too late, in my opinion. And also, with the Matic thing, it just backfired. Not bringing on Axel.
No.
And trying to be, I don't know, it's not maybe not trying to be too clever or whatever. It's just not trusting your centre-back who sat on the bench.
It didn't work.
It didn't work because Matic gave the ball away and then McTominay couldn't get back in time. And I mean, you know, it's a lot of ifs and buts, but if Axel had to come on he took Eric Bailly off. If Axel comes on for him, then maybe we could have got another goal and got the draw. Do you know what I mean? Maybe it doesn't end like that because it's a different scenario. So it just feels like Ollie got it wrong, but he wasn't helped by the fact that when you've got at least 8 of your players not playing well, it's very difficult to address that with.
3
subs. You know what I mean?
Mason looked right when he came
Mason gets a complete pass today. He didn't do anything wrong.
No.
Do you know what I mean? I'm not in the slightest blaming Mason Greenwood for that debacle. But some of the other players, they've got to get out of this because you don't want the season to end where you're just dropping points, you're losing games, and then you go into
finish 3rd or you finish 4th. Imagine we finish 4th now and we lost the Europa League final. All of a sudden, next season starts and you're still feeling shit about this season.
Do you know what I mean?
That's the last thing we need.
We've got to do more, and I really think we have to sort of. We've got a break now, not a big one, but it's Tuesday is the next game, innit? Against Fulham.
Yeah.
Fulham are already relegated.
Yeah.
And it's at Old Trafford. So.
The worst we can finish is 3rd.
Well, I don't want to finish 3rd because you've been second for fucking ages.
Yeah.
So you're right, but.
Yeah. But either way, you're not ending the season like
we cannot, right, I'm being serious now. We cannot lose to Fulham on Tuesday.
Yeah. No, definitely not. There's the league table there.
Fucking not happening. That is just, if that happens, and fucking people are going to start, and it'll be so fucking annoying because people will start going, this is why Ollie's not good enough, and it'll just ruin the end of the season. So no, we can't be having any of that. Go on, I'll let you read what else you've got.
Jash says could get Basuma for under 50 million quid potentially. Yeah, I mean, it's just who's the right man, isn't it? He looks like a good player, Basuma, but you don't know. We need a defensive midfielder, regardless of how much they cost. Obviously, the Glazers don't like spending a lot of money on different positions, but hopefully we can get someone in because it's just not good enough, is it? I mean, even if you thought Fred and McTominay were good enough, the fact that Matic is 33 or 32 going on 50. We need a new midfielder there anyway, even if Ollie does like Freddie McTominay, which I just genuinely don't think he possibly could. Do you know what I mean? I don't think he thinks Fred's a top-class defensive midfielder. I don't think he thinks that. Mark Quinton, think we need a new CDM. Yeah, it's Fred McSauce and Matic just aren't enough. Can we just scroll up on the Super Chats quick, Cam? Sorry. But can't start ripping Ollie in the players because they lost this game. I mean, you can criticise people. I'm not saying we need to sell everyone we've got. But you can criticise people and be disappointed after losing a big game to your biggest rival. I don't think that's unfair to as a fan, be able to do that.
No.
Andrew Batista says, today was a combo of naivety by Ole and lack of leadership at the back. Fatigue was a factor, but we phoned it in. I don't know necessarily the naivety. Maybe not bringing... I mean, let's be honest. I know Matic gave that goal away at the last minute, so... maybe we could have scored, but the game had become shit well before that had happened. So that decision maybe, stopped a theoretical goal that we could have scored, and it did give them a goal. But we were terrible long before Matic gave the ball away last minute. So there were, plenty of other problems to address other than just the substitutions by Ole. Yashas Acharya says, we've won 3 out of the last 15 league games versus the Big Six at Old Trafford. That's not good enough, but to win more games at home, we need to have a strong midfield who can control and keep possession. McFred don't give that. Yeah, that's a terrible start, isn't it? Plenty of draws in there as well, but even so. Ryan Burns, individual player performances aside, today is fully about a lack of coaching and use of the squad available in a cohesive manner, building through the season.
The problem with that is, right, and I've criticised Ole for today, and I think his in-game management was poor.
I agree.
But what options has he got for that central defensive midfield role?
And also, individual performances aside, I'm afraid I can't put them to one side because they're the people playing. Yeah. I know you can say, you can criticise the players and the manager, or just I get that, but I can't just say, well, forget the fact that Fred gave the ball away 9 times out of 10. I can't. Because that is what led to them conceding goals. And I do agree that Ole made mistakes, by the way. Like you said, I don't think that he acted quickly enough. Maybe he should have done more to get them up for the game, definitely. But, I can't just put to one side the fact that the people who are actually playing the match weren't up to it.
No, you can't just ignore that. And it goes back to that whole thing of what options have you got there in that role, in that midfield role? That a shit-hot CDM makes such a difference today. It really does. You can get your foot on the ball. You can start controlling the game better. You can settle everyone's nerves. You can offer the defence a bit of protection. You can do all those things. And we had 2 players in front of the defence that didn't do any of those things. No. Just constantly give away. But Fred literally more or less set up one goal. Yeah. And it was just, McTominay didn't have his best game either. It was all over the place. And that just affects the whole team. And it's not just that position. But that's the one, it's the most obvious that needs addressing because Maguire comes back in defensively. Maybe you can argue Lindelof can get swapped with someone, but defensively we're all right. Attack-wise, we've got options, and you can maybe we need a right winger or whatever. But the obvious one is that we need someone who can sit in front of that defence. We need that player, whether that's Declan Rice, whether it's the kid Basuma or whoever, on Ndidi. There's all these names being bandied about. But we can't just keep relying on players that obviously aren't at a level that's going to get you a title. No. If we've got any title-winning aspirations, and I think you've got a quote here from Keno, then that's got to be addressed. Go on, mate. I'll let you read that.
Yeah, Roy Keane said, I know Ole perseveres with Fred, but I can't see it. How they think Fred is going to get Man United as a wait for that to come back. Back to winning titles is beyond me. The goalkeeper didn't look great tonight either. There was mistake after mistake. We'll start with Fred. We'll talk about McTominay, Dean Henderson as well. Everyone can see it. And I'd say what I've said already. There's no way Ole doesn't see that Fred isn't good enough. There's no way he doesn't see it.
You made the point that I agree with, right? You said Andreas Pereira played 30 games last season because Ole had to play him. And everyone was going, Pereira's not good enough. And Ole more or less knew that, but he didn't have other options. As soon as another option came in, Pereira was more or less sold or loaned out or whatever. Dropped and then loaned out. So it was like he did see it. And you're getting the impression that with Ole and Fred, he sees that and he knows that. It's just, at the moment, it's either Fred or Matic or Van der Beek out of position or recalling James Garner from Forest and throwing him in at 20 years old, which none of those other options are particularly, great.
Because also, you got to think about who they're playing next to. And McCullough said this for ages, and I agree with him, and I agree that this is how Ole thinks. McTominay and Matic next to each other is like expecting 2 pine trees to be mobile in the midfield. They're good players at what they do in certain times, but you need someone with more energy and more agility and who can get around more quickly in those tight spaces than those two. Those two next to each other, to me, gets dominated and can be passed around too easily. I think one of them plus another top player. The reason Fred plays every week is because he has something the other midfielders don't. Pogba, 6'3" giant. McTominay, 6'3" giant. Matic, 6'4" giant. You can't just have a midfield full of gigantic players who don't have that, around the 18-yard box, quick turn and defense. That's why Fred plays, because he's the only one who ticks that box. But I think as soon as we get someone else that can tick that box, he wouldn't play anymore. We've got a few more super chats as well. Abdullah Ibrahim, the Premier League clearly treats players with contempt, and making us play 2 matches in 3 days is shocking. Number 2, is Fred really Brazilian? Maybe. Number 3, did the players drop off because we secured a top 4 spot? Maybe. Maybe there's something to do with that. We had less to play for than Liverpool. There's no doubt in that. Chris Tadulu says, ignore the negative comments, lads. Nothing like Arsenal Fan TV. Thank you.
Thank you. Well said.
Yashas as well said, I meant 3 out of 15 versus the Big 6 for the last 3 seasons. Well, that's, I guess, how many times we play the Big 6, isn't it? Bruno can be forgiven to give the ball away because he's a cam, but no excuse, McFred. Yeah, exactly that. I think that's Bruno's job is to take risks, and sometimes you're going to give the ball away.
I'm not
you're going to get
pointing at Bruno Fernandes tonight.
No. Alex says, United supporter since 83. How can United have central midfielders that can't pass? Both of them working hard is a given, not praiseworthy state of it. Yeah, the passing thing is, like I said this before, the Leicester game in the FA Cup where the ball comes to Fred, he looks to pass it to Wan-Bissaka, doesn't trust his right foot, so passes it to Iheanacho instead, and they score the goal. Tonight, the ball comes to him, he looks to pass it with his left foot, and because it's his left and he's left-footed, he trusts it. He tries to play out to Luke Shaw, and he goes straight to their player because he can't pass. And like Trev made a good point, he's always flat-footed, facing his own goal. He's not on the half turn enough. He's not checking his angles. He's not turning with the ball as he receives it to open up the space. Because if you're facing your own goal, you can either play it backwards to your own goal, or you can try and play a risky pass over your shoulder. If you're opening your body up, all of a sudden you've got 180 degrees, 90 of which are forward. The way he sets himself up when the ball's arriving, if he wants to play the ball forward, he has to take a risk because of his body is way out of shape to do it. So it's the passing, just like I said there. Been a United fan since 83. How can United have central midfielders that can't pass? I don't know. AK, frustrating part about the whole game was that we didn't get stability anywhere. Sure is as much to blame for the third as Henderson. Yeah, true. Was just a poor game from the team. And we concentrate on Fred because he's made so many more mistakes this season. Shaw has been pretty excellent for the last sort of 6 months. But he just ran it into their player, and then they have a shot, and Henderson, it bounces off Henderson and goes in. It's 3 mistakes in a row, but I think the reason Fred gets the brunt of the criticism is because he was consistently making those mistakes all game.
I'm sick of seeing this as well.
Yeah. Do you know you used to do that all the time?
Seeing it.
Sighing, slapping your arms out. Sanchez used to do that all the time.
He's either apologising or he's exasperated with his teammates.
Yeah.
It's either I'm shit or you're shit every pass, and it's like, come on, man, like, you know, it's not good enough. It's just amateurish.
Ross Murphy, for me, I play Matic in the final instead of Fred and McTominay. At least Matic has that experience in finals, and then play Pogba and Bruno midfield, Rashford on the left, Greenwood on the right, Cavani up top. It's more of an attacking lineup. I wouldn't necessarily mind that, to be honest.
I think that's not even the worst shout I've heard because it's Villarreal. Yeah. I don't think it'll happen.
No.
But if we actually went at him, maybe we'd have a chance of just blowing him away. But I don't see Ollie taking those risks. I think he'll play McFred because he plays in pretty much every game. They're both fit.
Mm-hmm. Martin says, how do you fix the issues with set pieces? I don't know. They looked to be largely fixed. Or, you know, the start of the season we were terrible. We had a great run of defensively where things were much better. I don't think not having Maguire helps. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I don't think not having Maguire helps. Like
the other night against Leicester, the argument was it was zonal. Yeah? So the argument is that Marcus is marking Sionsu, is it? And then it becomes Matic's man, and then he scores, and obviously, and think Henderson as well could do better. Not Henderson, De Gea could do better. See, that's the argument. But tonight it's got nothing to do with zonal when Paul Pogba's got a man next to him.
No.
And that's obviously...
And Eric Bailly's knocking about as well.
Yeah. And it's like, is that zonal or is that just not picking up that man who stood there who you can see, if you don't track him, he's going to get the ball and score, which he does.
The reason... Watch that Firmino goal back. The reason Paul Pogba makes his run back to his own defence, like the ball's about to come in. The reason Paul Pogba starts it, what the catalyst and the gunshot for Pogba to make his run is him seeing Firmino make his run.
Yeah,
you're too late.
Yeah,
if you start running because he's already started, and oh shit, Firmino's running, I better go after him. It's too late.
Yeah,
you've got to be more proactive than that. You've got to think, here's the ball, he's making a run from deeper. I need to go before him because he's going to pass me. It's just poor defensive positioning, poor defensive know-how. You can't make you run because, he started running, I should run. Well, it's too late then. Martin again, said that one. Mark Quinton said, I agree losing against the Scousers is painful, but with that Ole has to work. But with what Ole has to work with, we can't forgive the lack of investment. Needs to blame the right people. There's definitely a lack of investment in the squad, especially last season. There was just, we finished third, getting the Champions League spots, and then, by get a free agent striker who was happened to be excellent in Cavani, and then a few backups. It's not really good enough, is it? Ryan Fox, that performance from Dean proves why De Gea is number one. Here's the problem.
The thing is that against Leicester, we were pointing out De Gea's faults.
Yeah.
The goal I've just said there, could he do better for it? Do you know what I mean? Like, De Gea had a bit of a worldie against Roma, was it?
Yep.
And he has been an amazing goalkeeper for us. But this season, the only reason Dean Henderson has got into the United team is because De Gea's opened the door for him. Yeah. Like, if De Gea was mint this season, Dean Henderson wouldn't have got looking.
No.
Ollie would have just said to Dean Henderson, you're not getting in the team.
Yeah, you're the second choice, or you can leave.
Oh, yeah, if you're going to leave, well, fuck off then. No, I'm not like that. But, all right, then off you go, because that's David De Gea, and he's one of the best goalkeepers on the planet. But De Gea has made mistakes and allowed Dean Henderson to come in. Now, what the problem you've got with Dean Henderson and David De Gea is, Dean Henderson's minute of control in his area, usually. Like, even there tonight, he came out, he stops Jota getting a goal, which, for me, David De Gea wouldn't have done. And I'm not sure about the Mane one, whether that was offside or not, but it was a fantastic save either way. But then you have the one that's straight at him and he just parries it to Firmino. That's not good enough. It's just not. And, I can't blame him for the fourth. But that is a piss-poor mistake from a goalkeeper for Manchester United. It is. I've saw Ender van der Sar make those kind of mistakes maybe twice in his entire United career. And for me, that's the benchmark. And it's like, you've seen it far too often from our goalkeepers. And it's whoever's not playing is the answer. Like, after Leicester, that's why Henderson's got to come back in. Yeah. After Everton, that's why Henderson's got to come back in. Now tonight, that's why De Gea's got to come back in. Maybe it's neither of them.
Yeah.
Like, maybe Dean Henderson, because he's so young, has another level to get to. Because I think he has. He's only 23 or something. For a goalkeeper, he's a babby. So maybe he can iron these mistakes out of his game.
Yeah.
But we can't just sort of keep going, it's the one that's not playing.
No.
Stick with Henderson then. If you're going to stick with him, maybe give him a season.
Yeah.
And then, or if you don't fancy him, if you don't think he's good enough, in the summer, you add that to your fucking list of people you're not going to get as a goalkeeper. Because I don't think De Gea coming back in is the answer.
No. And also, it's not like De Gea has been, like you said, if De Gea had been 2015 to 2018 De Gea, who the fuck is Dean Henderson? He wouldn't have had a chance.
That's like fucking, I don't know. Yeah. That is like, say, someone like, Dylan Levitt coming in for Bruno Fernandes.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you know what I mean? It's like, Bruno, you dropped because, you're just shit now, or you're making too many mistakes. Like, you're not going to get Bruno out of that team.
No.
And that is how it used to be with David De Gea. You're not getting him out of that team no matter what. And now it's like, well, actually, you've had a good season at Sheffield United. You're decent. You can have a go.
Yeah. I mean, it is literally the case, like you said. De Gea has been bad not bad, but not to his standard for the best part of 2 years.
Mate, against Everton,
2 years.
All 3 goals he was at fault for.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry to keep going on about that, but that was more or less, and I'm not blaming him for the title race collapsing, because obviously it was a lot more than that. But that was almost the end of the title race, like that last minute. And it was like the first, second, and third goal. He was at fault for all of them. You're like, you can't do that as a goalkeeper for Manchester United. And it's like tonight, Dean Henderson, a mistake. The only sort of saving grace, I think, for Dean Henderson personally is that he's young and he can get better and he can sort of iron out these little areas. And also, I do feel that as a defensive back five, we're better with him in it because he seems to bring out the best of his defenders. Although today, obviously, we had no Aaron Maguire, which doesn't help because Eric Bayer and Victor Lindelof at times, especially Eric Bayer, it seemed very chaotic.
Yeah. Juan Martinez said Hendo came out and made 2 or 3 saves, like you mentioned specifically before, that De Gea never would. At 1/3 of the salary. Also, the last goal was Lindelof's man. Scotty was just quicker trying to get back.
I'm not blaming Scott for the last goal.
Yeah.
I'm not like the Salah.
Yeah.
I'm not blaming Scott McTominay for not getting back for that.
No, and neither is he. I think some people were saying that was his man. Just because McTominay got further back, it was actually Lindelof's man, is what he said.
Let's get one thing straight. Scott McTominay's not catching Mo Salah.
No.
That's not happening.
No.
And the argument of he should run faster is like, that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
He's just not got the legs to beat Mo Salah in a sprinting race.
Yeah. And back to the point quickly before we wrap up about Henderson and De Gea. We need to consider the fact, and I'm not saying that we're at this point, but leave the door open for the potential that it's neither De Gea nor Henderson.
Yeah,
it doesn't have to be one of those two.
Mac has made this point. I think it's Mac who said it about the fact because he's still a bit like David De Gea, but admits he's got his faults. Maybe there is a third option. Like maybe it is you look at it and you go, well, neither of them are actually at the level we need. I still believe in Dean Henderson.
Yeah, me too.
At least I would give him a season. And I know people go, well, we're just going to throw away. I'm not saying we're throwing it away. I'm saying I think he's shown enough and he has a decent enough understanding with his defenders normally where I'd give him another season. But there was talk of Tom Eaton coming in as a backup one there. And I mean, that's not going to solve any issues. We need, if someone is coming in, for them to, who is going to take that number one spot, then it needs to be someone who's, no disrespect to Tom Eaton, but not been sat on Villa's bench, whatever he's been doing, and isn't 35.
Yep.
Should we wrap it up there?
Yeah.
I think we've said enough. Thanks for everyone who got involved. Thanks for the super chats. Thanks for everyone who commented as well. We do appreciate that. Even a few scousers who've popped up into the chat as well. You want to get involved, you're welcome to. We are going to be back tomorrow. I think it's going to be your man Alex Bagley with the news from Old Trafford after that peaceful protest tonight. I was there earlier. There's lots of flares and green flares. I know that, that smell of the flares in your mouth.
Nice, isn't it?
Yeah, nice, lovely. So we'll have that. We'll have Carl Anker's here on the Brew as well from the Athletics. We'll be picking his brains about who United need to buy in the summer and also his book with Marcus Rashford, the lucky lad. To write a book with Marcus Rashford. That's living a dream, innit? So make sure you're checking out all that as well. We'll be looking ahead towards the Fulham game.
Quickly before we go, AK there with the super chat, and I'll cut you off while you're coughing. Tonight's performance also cements the fact that Maguire is underrated and not given enough credit. I agree with that.
You love Harry Maguire, don't you?
Well,
right,
I just think he's good.
Yeah.
I think he's good most of the time.
The Glazers video. We've got a video about the protest against the Glazers.
It's not a
Glazers video. It's not like the Glazers, eh?
Yeah, we've got a pro-Glazer advert coming out. No, that's not happening.
We've got a video that it's kind of cradle to the grave with the Glazers about the takeover United and the process and the stuff, and a bit of fan reaction there and what's gone down and all this other stuff and protest stuff as well. So we've put a little piece together there for you to talk about that and to take you all through that. I think that's what that is. There should be a link in the chat. There you go. Mr. Cameron Waters has put that in for you. Thanks a lot. Make sure you check in Joe Smith out on the socials. Joe Smith 93. You know where to find me, Jay Motti. Don't forget to hit like, share, and subscribe. This has been Stretford Paddock Live Review. Thanks for watching.